fancy myself a bit of an ideas man. We're going to build just like the Spurs. Quality players that fit, committed to winning. Then he's like, boom, new idea. Two superstars. Timeout. Kyrie and KD want to be traded. We're not trading you. Now that I think about it, we will trade you.
You thought they'd miss the play-in. You thought they'd be the 6th seed.
Oh, this guy. Okay, what is that?
I was right. This is my ground.
Patrick, you have one other option. You can let your play do the talking, or you can let me do it for you. But real quick, before we get to it,
I don't think
we're smoking on that Bengals pack.
Wow.
If you only catch a few minutes of FS1's First Things First, it can look like any other sports debate show. Some bold takes, a few highlights, and people talking over each other. But if you stick around, you notice something different. The show keeps growing. The hosts feel like a real team, not just a group of personalities sharing a desk. The topics move quickly without becoming messy. And most importantly, viewers keep coming back. Ratings have climbed. Clips go viral. And the fan base feels like a community that understands the show's inside jokes and rhythms. That leads to the big question. How did First Things First go from a morning experiment to a 3-hour daily force that dominates sports talk? To answer that, let's take a simple yet clear tour of what changed. We'll look at how the show started, how it rebuilt itself, what choices were made behind the scenes, why the on-air chemistry works, and how the new 3-hour format, especially with the fresh overtime 3rd hour, sets them up to own the afternoons. Lots of shows talk sports, but First Things First builds a world you want to visit every day. That's the real advantage. First, rewind to the beginning. FS1 launched in 2013 and spent a while figuring out the right lineup. They had The Herd and Undisputed doing well, but the early morning slot felt empty. Reruns, replays, and a whole lot of nothing, to be honest. But that changed when Fox paired Nick Wright, a sharp and fast radio voice, with Hall of Famer Chris Carter, and brought in Jenna Wolfe to steer the conversation. On September 5th, 2017, First Things First hit the air with pace, focus, and an opinionated style. It looked like a classic morning show. Quick hits, big games, NFL headlines, and NBA drama. It worked, but TV is tough. When Carter left in 2019, First Things First faced a crossroads. Would it fade, or would it rebuild into something better? The show chose to rebuild. FS1 added Kevin Wildes, a clever producer turned on-camera talent who brings ideas, humor, and order to every segment. Brandon Marshall came in for a stretch to add a player's voice. And then Chris Broussard, known for his strong NBA reporting and clear analysis, became a full-time host. The shape of the show changed with them. Instead of tight desk debates that end abruptly, the show leaned into panel chemistry and storytelling. Each person had a role. One pushes, one counters, one connects it all together. When Jenna Wolfe wrapped in 2022, the show didn't fall apart. It moved to the afternoon and sharpened its identity. Smart sports talk with personality. The team leaned into segments viewers already enjoyed and found new ways to package topics so the debates felt fun, not forced. By 2023 and 2024, the story was in the numbers. Month after month, year after year. Growth, new time slots, more viewers, and a YouTube channel that kept picking up speed. This wasn't a lucky spike. It was steady momentum built on a clear plan. The heart of that plan is chemistry. If there's one word people use to describe First Things First, it's that Nick Wright is the engine, quick, detailed, and never dull. He'll argue player value 1 minute and land a sharp joke the next. He cares about winning arguments. Yes, they all do. But he also cares about making good TV that normal fans can follow. Chris Broussard brings balance. He knows how to weigh fan excitement with a reporter's eye. He can challenge a hot take without killing the mood. And Kevin Wildes is the glue. He keeps the show on track, adds creative bits that make the segments memorable, and somehow turns even a simple scheduled discussion into something that feels like a moment. Together, they don't compete to be the loudest. They pass the ball, build on each other's points, and shift from silly to serious without giving viewers whiplash. You can feel this chemistry in the clips that flood your feed. They'll throw out questions that matter, like whether a team should trade a star inside the conference if it truly believes it's winning the deal, or whether a franchise should start an exciting rookie now or let a veteran handle the first few weeks while the kid learns. They dig into what actually makes a contender. Is it big names? Or is it the boring line play and small adjustments that show up in January? They don't just shout and move on. They build a case, test it, flip angles, and let the audience decide. That's why the clips work so well on your phone. A full idea from start to finish in a few minutes, neatly packaged and easy to share. Unlike shows that never change until they fade, First Things First evolves. It moved from mornings to afternoons. It grew from 90 minutes to 2 hours. And now it runs 3 hours from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The first 2 hours remain the core First Things First viewers know. Fast, funny, and informed. The third hour, First Things First Overtime, opens up the playbook. More guests, more football, more basketball voices during the season, and a fresh closing beat that feels different from the earlier hours. And this isn't filler, it's a separate gear. And new voices arrived at the right time too. Danny Parkins has been around First Things First long enough to feel like a cousin. Now he anchors the third hour. Eric Mangini and Greg Jennings rotating through add a deep football knowledge. They aren't strangers parachuting in for a day. They're part of the family that matters. When you hear Mangini explains how a defense disguises coverage, or Jennings breaks down how a receiver reads leverage, it clicks. The information is clear and the chemistry stays intact. Signature segments keeps the show's identity strong. Mahomes Mountain takes a simple idea and turns it into a running language fans can follow week by week. The Bud List becomes a motivational countdown that viewers wait for. These bits do more than fill time. They create hooks that stick in your head and give the show inside turns fans share online. When something wild happens on Sunday, you already know how it might move the mountain on Monday, unless you're Patrick Mahomes. Club Superstars, where Nick Wright ranks the 12 best NBA players in the world with a strict one-in, one-out policy. Players are in the MVP room, in the Cancun room, or on a waiting list to get in. Club Superstar is a playful way to debate who truly deserves the superstar title in the NBA each year. There's also Title Pie, a visual representation in the format of a pie chart of the projected championship odds for different NBA teams, with each team receiving a slice proportionate to their likelihood of winning the NBA title. First Things First also brings in culture guests who fit the show's tone. One day it's Joel McHale or Heidi Gardner having fun with a quarterback ranking. Another day it's Lil Wayne dropping in during a hot NBA week. That mix keeps the show feeling fresh and brings in casual viewers who might not watch a full hour but will click a clip, then click another. By meeting people where they already are, First Things First doesn't wait for the audience to find it. It goes to the audience, and then makes it easy to stay. Now here's why the 3-hour era is such a big deal. On paper, longer shows can drag, but First Things First OT is built to avoid that. Think of the day like a game. Hours 1 and 2 from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time deliver the classic flow. Big topics first, strong opinions, clear graphics, Nick pushes a point, Broussard counters, Wilds orchestrate. You get the news and the what it means part stakes, not just scores. Then at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the OT hour kicks in with Danny Parkins, steering the conversation at a looser tempo. It's still First Things First, but with more room for topics. Deep dives in season. Mangini reads tape like a coach. He was one. Jennings explains receiver life from the inside. A veteran lineman like Willie Colon might jump in with trench talk that makes you smarter in 5 minutes. The result is a daily rhythm that feels complete. This structure does 2 powerful things. First, it widens the audience. Casual fans can drop in for the first 2 hours to get headlines, arguments, and laughs. Hardcore fans lean into OT for deeper football talk, more nuance, and the kind of context that pays off on Sundays. Second, it builds a daily habit. When a show hits at the same time every weekday with a rhythm you trust, it becomes part of your day. Ratings don't grow on one viral moment. They grow on thousands of small decisions to tune in again because yesterday felt worth it. The timing also matters. FS1 reshuffled its weekday lineup, moved on from a few shows, and gave First Things First more runway. This is a clear vote of confidence from the network. It's like a coach handing a point guard the ball in the fourth quarter and saying, go win this game. More time means more chances to experiment, test new segments, and build even stronger habits with viewers. There's another key. Protecting the chemistry while adding pieces. Danny Parkins put it well. People love First Things First for the chemistry, and adding him shouldn't break that. TV chemistry is not just we like each other. It's the invisible rules. who goes first on the topic, when to interrupt, and when to wait, how to disagree without getting personal, how to end a segment on a clean, memorable line. The core trio has these rules down. Parkins has filled in enough to learn the rhythm. When Nick is building a point, he lets it breathe. When Broussard weighs both sides, he adds the right nudge. When Wilds tosses a curve, he responds with a story that snaps everything into place. In today's media world, being great on television isn't enough. You can have the sharpest debates, the best graphics, and the funniest hosts, but if the internet doesn't care, your show risks vanishing into the background. This is where First Things First separates itself from many of its rivals. First Things First refuses to disappear once the camera stops rolling. Instead, they've mastered the digital game. Every segment is clipped in a way that feels complete on its own. The titles are sharp and searchable. The thumbnails are eye-catching, and the topics are packaged so a viewer can understand the whole point without needing to watch the full 3 hours. This is exactly why their YouTube channel has crossed the 1 million subscriber mark and piled up hundreds of millions of views. And it didn't happen by accident. It was planned from the start. The show was built for multi-platform distribution. When Nick Wright sketches out a take, he isn't only thinking about how it sounds live on FS1. He's also considering how it would play as a 7-minute YouTube video, as a 20-minute podcast segment, or even as a 30-second TikTok clip. That's why the delivery feels tight and why so many of his points spread far beyond television. Similarly, when Kevin Wilds pitches a quirky bit or segment, he thinks about how it will look on your phone screen before it even airs. This approach guarantees that the material doesn't just live once, it lives everywhere. In practice, this means First Things First has built what every modern sports show needs. 4 overlapping audiences that capture the live viewers who watch in the afternoon. They reach the on-demand audience at night who catch up on it on YouTube or the FS1 app. They grab the morning audience scrolling through clips at breakfast, and they reach the podcast crowd who listen throughout the day while commuting for work or hitting the gym with all 4 angles covered. First Things First sticks in places other shows don't. And the more surfaces a show sticks, the harder it is to beat. Of course, no sports talk show survives this long without hitting a few bumps along the way. First Things First has had its share. Lineup changes, time slot shifts, and even moments on air that drew criticism. What matters most, though, is what happens after those bumps. First Things First has consistently shown the ability to adjust, respond, and grow stronger. When a host left, the show didn't collapse. It rebuilt with new energy. When a comment sparked backlash, the team acknowledged it, adjusted their language, and kept it moving. Instead of clinging to old formulas, they fine-tuned segments and doubled down on their core values. Smart analysts, lively discussions, and respectful debates. Audiences don't demand perfection from their favorite shows. What they expect is honesty and growth. First Things First give them both. Viewers can sense that the hosts want to get it right and want to keep the show fun. That balance creates trust. And trust is what makes audiences return day after day. Even when the show stumbles, fans don't leave because they know the team will handle it with care. When you watch First Things First closely, you realize that part of its success lies in the small details that many shows overlook. These little things stack up and create a product that feels sharper and more engaging than its rivals. For starters, First Things First is excellent at making stakes clear. They don't just say, the Bills should make a trade. They explain why. They talk about playoff windows, salary cap hits, and what the move signals to the locker room. That way, when you watch the next game, you're not just seeing plays. You're watching with context that makes every moment matter more. Another strength lies in the running bits that have turned into a kind of language, if you will. Mahomes Mountain and the Bud List aren't just segments. They're traditions. Fans anticipate them and even argue about them outside the show. Guests join in for the fun, and suddenly, First Things First feels less like a broadcast and more like a small culture with its own inside jokes. Editing is another area where this show shines. Graphics are tight and packed with information. Highlights land cleanly, and sound drops are quick and sharp. The pacing means you never feel lost, even if you only just tuned in. It respects your time by giving you information in bite-sized, memorable ways. Nick Wright also deserves credit for being more than just a debater. He plays to win arguments, but he also loves teaching the audience. He explains the math behind cap space, history behind rivalries, and coaching logic behind schemes. Viewers get the adrenaline of debate and the clarity of education in one package. It's entertainment and insight wrapped together. Then there's the football IQ built into the overtime hour. With Eric Mangini and Greg Jennings rotating in, the conversations can go deep without losing the audience. You hear why a team might prefer to trade inside its conference, why a rookie might sit until week 7, or why certain moves are smarter than they look. It's not just hot takes. It's a plan explained in simple language. Finally, there's the momentum at the network level. FS1 didn't just hand First Things First another hour as filler. Clearing space for them signaled belief. That extra room gives the team freedom to experiment, bring in more guests, and try fan-driven segments. Growth fuels creativity, and creativity fuels growth even more. These details may seem small, but together, they create a show that feels polished, confident, and always moving forward. With so many sports shows on the air, fans always have choices. So why do so many people choose First Things First? Well, the answer is layered, but simple once you see it. Fans pick First Things First because it feels alive. The show treats sports the way they actually are, a mix of strategy, story, and spectacle. You get the information that makes Sunday's games richer and the jokes that make Monday mornings easier to handle. They also pick it because it respects their time. In just 5 minutes, you can get an idea worth thinking about. Stick around for an hour, and you'll have a full map of the day's sports landscape. Watch all 3 hours, and you feel like you've traveled the entire sports world. It delivers value at every level of investment. Another reason is the teamwork on display. You're not just watching isolated takes. You're watching a group that knows when to push, when to pivot, and when to pass the ball. That sense of the rhythm is the difference between random noise and real television. Audience can tell when chemistry is genuine, and that authenticity makes all the difference. Finally, fans pick First Things First because the show keeps building. It doesn't cling to one version of itself. It grows with the league, with the internet, with the audience. When viewers change how they consume content, First Things First changes as well. That flexibility means it doesn't get stuck, and in sports media, standing still is often the same as fading away. So where does First Things First go from here? Dominating a moment is impressive, but turning that dominance into a dynasty requires smart choices. The blueprint is clear. First, they need to make the overtime hour must-see television. That means giving each day a predictable but exciting theme. Mondays could be a coach's clinic, breaking down film and strategy. Tuesdays might be all about quarterback tiers. Wednesdays can handle the classic contender or pretender questions for teams on the bubble. Thursday might focus on betting and matchups heading into the weekend. And Fridays would naturally belong to the bud lists and picks. With that structure, fans know exactly what they'll get, which makes them return week after week. I'm very excited to see what they do with that third hour during basketball season. Also, the guest pipeline needs to stay fresh. Rotating players, comedians, and creators who actually watch the show keeps the energy hot. A guest who understands the running jokes or has followed Mahomes Mountain before makes for better television than some celebrity just parachuting in cold and knowing really nothing about it. That familiarity connects with fans and makes every segment feel smoother. Number 3, when a debate goes viral, don't let it live solely on YouTube. Share it across every platform, title it perfectly, and add a quick explainer at the start so new fans can jump in without any prior knowledge. Each viral moment is a doorway to the show. Maximize them. Fourth, fan participation should become a bigger part of the rhythm. Pools that feed the Mahomes Mountain, a weekly mailbag and OT, or Fix My Team mini segments where Mangini and Jennings give real fans advice would pull all viewers closer. The stronger the audience feels like part of the show, the harder it is for them to turn away. And finally, First Things First needs to stay authentic in tough moments. Controversies will come, seasons will collapse, and stars will get injured. When that happens, the show can't just chase clicks. It has to tell the truth, handle sensitive topics with care, and keep the conversation human. That will honestly preserve trust, even in rocky times. If the team does all this, First Things First won't just dominate a year or two. It will set the standard for what modern sports talk looks like in the streaming era. At the end of the day, there are really 2 types of sports talk shows. First type shouts for an hour and disappears when the next headline comes along. The second type builds a world you actually want to visit every day. A world where the hosts feel like friends, the segment feels like inside jokes you're in on, and the ideas stick with you long after the commercial break ends. First Things First clearly belongs in that second category. It started in a tough slot, lost key people, and faced real challenges. some of the things us common people have gone through our entire lives. And it could have faded away quietly. Instead, it kept rebuilding. It added the right voices, sharpened its identity, mastered the digital landscape, and expanded to a 3-hour block with a third hour that feels fresh and inviting. That's not luck. It's a plan carried out step by step. And that's why First Things First is dominating sports today. Not because it yells the loudest, not because it pretends to be perfect, but because it does the hard, simple work of making great television, respecting the audience, and having a blast doing it every single day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.